everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Mom Squad. This is a show where we cover all types of parenting topics, and today's is a serious one. There's a trend happening all over the country, a dangerous one, and it's lingering on your child's phone. It's called sextortion. Last year alone, the FBI received 7,000 reports of minors being targeted. Sextortion is like catfishing, where an online predator pretends to be someone as the same age as a teen or a minor, and then gets them to send sexual photos, and then threatens to share those photos or commit violent acts if they don't get money from the child. This past spring, James Woods was victimized within a matter of hours and committed suicide. His family shares his story.
He was a humble young man.
It's only been a few days since their 17-year-old son, James, tragically committed suicide. But the Woods say they have a message that is crucial to share.
They sent him over 200 messages antagonizing him, tormenting him, telling them that they would ruin his life, sending explicit pictures out to his friends.
It's called sextortion, an online crime when an adult poses as a same-aged peer, sometimes convincing victims to share sexual pictures. They say that's what happened to James when a young lady tricked him into sharing too much,
making him use all of his money that he had in cash. They played on his embarrassment and his shame and really made him feel like he had no other choice.
The whole ordeal happened in a matter of 20 hours. Now the Woods say their mission is to prevent this from happening to anyone else.
So I just want the kids, please kids, I'm begging you, tell your parents if they ask. Please tell your parents.
Thank you to Lindsay Buckingham, who was reporting there. Now, one expert on the dangers of sextortion and how it's spreading is Jessie Weinberger. She travels the country warning parents about sextortion and how to prevent it. She and I sat down recently to talk about this disturbing trend. Jessie, one of the biggest issues I hear about, especially when it's from high school counselors that I know, is that sextortion, even the FBI, I just talked to the FBI who said that this is becoming the biggest issue that they're seeing with social media and teens. And how is this happening?
Well, so to back up a second, I've seen it in much younger children. And that the FBI nationally, federally put out a statement that from May to December of 2022, there were more than 13,000 reports of financial sextortion where children were targeted in the United States in those 7 months, whatever that is, 7 months.
Oh my gosh.
And some of the kids were as young as like 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
So, and I've met these kids, right? So I've met some of those children. So to say it's just high school, you know, that's where the disconnect happens because, you know, to put it bluntly, there's a market for everything. If the goal is to get control over that child and to either sex trafficking or just for financial gain, sometimes when it's for, you know, more child pornography, they're going to tell that kid you need to send us so many more pictures or else, then there's a market for everything. So they're going to want to, you know, rope in or groom a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. So it's not just high school at all, not by a long shot. And just, you know, sextortion, should we define what that means?
Absolutely.
Okay. So sextortion, I call it weaponized attention. Because it's not real attention. And so I brought today, not only because we talked about the Surgeon General's social media report, right? But same time, the epidemic of loneliness, right? Like this is a whole other thing from the Surgeon General. So it's normal for humans to feel lonely. That's normal. That's part of the human condition because humans are tribal creatures. We need our tribe. We need our people. So loneliness is normal. The problem is when the loneliness is never stops. So we're lonely, and there's no sort of respite from it. There's no break from it. You're not getting together with friends, you're not whatever. And so COVID made this worse, obviously, because kids and adults were on their devices, either for work and for legitimate reasons, hours without end. Well, when you feel lonely and you can't get out of the house, or you don't want to get out of the house, you're more apt to reach out to people you don't necessarily know. And if someone's telling you, oh, Maureen, you're just the greatest thing since cheese, and you're so beautiful, and you're not all these things, and you're just, nobody understands you, only I understand you, you start to, and sextortion happens to adults as well.
Yeah.
So these people are telling you everything you want to hear, which is why I call it weaponized attention, because it's not real attention, it's in order to get to a point.
Yeah.
But it's from little bitties all the way to grown-ups.
Where are the predators finding their victims?
Well, what I find is that, especially with kids, one of the signs I tell kids to watch out for is if this is happening, this could be a predator pretending not to be a predator. If it starts out in one place and then that new friend you have wants to move the conversation someplace else. So it starts out in a game, and now we're going to go talk on Discord, and now in a group, and now we're going to go to Instagram in a DM. And they want to move the conversation to other places. That's a sign that you might be talking to someone who doesn't have your best interest at heart. Someone who wants to separate you or put a wedge between the victim and their family and their friends. I'm the only one that gets you. I'm the only one who understands you. And that's, just paving the path for the rest of, what comes after.
Talk to me about the steps too, about how they groom their target. You already kind of touched on it, but what are some of the things, like once that they've moved the conversation to a safer location for them, what do they start to do to get that target hooked? Yeah, well, even the one step before that is the attention's going to be really quick and really familiar. It's going to go from 0 to I love you like that. Right? And then we're going to move, as you said, we're going to move to a different place. And then it's just going to be praise and divisive language, putting that space in. And then it's going to be, if we were really friends, if you really loved me, you would do this. Or a sob story. My parents are going to kick me out of my house and I need money. I need you to send me Amazon gift cards. Or if you really loved me, you would send me nudes. Or if whatever. And then once the person's on the hook, once they have information, once they have inappropriate pictures, once they have something noteworthy to use against that person, now we have a real problem. Because now the person's going to come back and say, you're going to do what I want or else. And I'll give you an example. One of the first cases I ever saw firsthand was a 7th grader who came to me after a presentation to tell me that she had met a boy on Instagram that she was dating. She'd never met him in real life. And again, of course, moist guy in the basement, right? Because I know you love that word. Yeah. And so she's supposedly dating this kid who's her age. Of course he wasn't. And he finally said to her, after months of communicating and her sending him inappropriate pictures, etc., he finally said to her, I'm not, Bobby, whatever, I'm the moist guy in the basement, and I don't live a few towns away from you, which is a typical thing. Yeah. Because kids are more likely, if you live in Solon, or you live in New York City, or you live in Chicago, you're more likely to be willing to talk to someone who says they're from a suburb near Chicago or a suburb in Queens or whatever, that's just near it. And so they'll lie about where they are. And then this girl bought into it, didn't realize he was hundreds of miles away. And finally he said to her, I'm not who I said I was. I'm this other person. And now I'm going to be at your house at this day and this time. And I Google satellite mapped your property. And I'm going to come in that back door by that Japanese maple tree that I can see on satellite. And you're going to leave that back door open, because if you don't, I'm going to kill your entire family. Because I know where your parents work, because you told me. I know where your brother goes to school. I know where you go to dance every Saturday. So be ready. And then I asked the girl, when is this supposed to happen? And she says, next Tuesday. Like, I just happened to be at the school. So we give her phone to law enforcement. Law enforcement pretends to be her. And the guy shows up on Tuesday just like he said he was going to. Now the cops are in the house. But the point is, when I asked her, why did you not tell anyone? She said, I had sent him pictures that I was embarrassed by, and I didn't want to get into trouble. Kids would rather jump into a volcano than get into trouble. So one of the conversations that we have to have with our kids over and over again is, I don't care what you did, I need you to be safe. Even with my 24 and 20-year-old, I say, look, my first goal in life when I go to bed at night is nobody got dead.
Nobody, no one's dead, no one's in prison. My parenting benchmarks are very low. There's a more marked level of success when your barriers are that low. And then after that, yes, be kind, whatever, but at least be alive. Right? So she was willing to do anything to not get into trouble. So have the conversation with your kids. It doesn't matter what you did. Please tell me. We'll have the conversation. And the other thing is that he told her he was going to kill her family, which is exactly what happens in these cases. I'm going to release those pictures to all of your friends. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to be mortified. Some kids actually take their own lives from this. Like the case, there was a case in Streetsboro, Ohio that was well publicized. There was a lot of other cases back to that 13,000 a year. I think more than a dozen of those kids in that 6-month span actually took their own lives. So she took him at his word. And that's the other thing kids need to understand is that's a lie. No one's going to do that. It's a lie to get you to do things that you don't want to do. And adults are following for it too. This isn't just children.
And what was scary is some of your research here also said that they will ask to victimize other kids too. So somebody might not even know that their photos are being circulated, or how do they do that? Does a kid say, "Hey, let me take a picture of you" in an inappropriate way?
Well, so I was at a 5th grade, speaking of 5th graders, and I had a little girl come and tell me that she had been at a sleepover. I hate sleepovers. Hate sleepovers. She had been at a sleepover at a friend's house, a trusted family, whatever. The cousins were there. Of the place where she was sleeping. And one of the boy cousins, who was like 13, so she's like, 10 and he's 13, said to her, "I want nude pictures of you or I'm gonna kill you." So now, at first glance, bad guy's the kid. And to a certain degree, he's doing things he shouldn't do, obviously. However, he was being coerced by a grown-up. So the grown-up was saying to him, "You're gonna get me pictures of girls this age or else this is happening to you." So, that's why investigation of these cases is so important, to sort of unravel the levels of this, the onion, which is why I say all the time, no devices till 13. Because if we want to prevent, right, can we help that child? Of course. Are we going to get her to where she was before that happened psychologically? I don't know. You can't just erase that.
So as a parent, what are there signs that we look out for? How do we protect our kids or know if they are in danger of this or if there's something going on?
One of the really obvious, not obvious ones are when packages arrive at your house and you don't know who they came from. So, I don't know, Amazon's in my driveway. My husband thought I was having an affair with the UPS guy. I was not. But Amazon's in my driveway 3 times a day. But if you're seeing packages for your children and you don't know where they came from, one of 2 things could be happening. They could be sent gifts from someone that they don't know, or they could be sent Amazon gift cards digitally by someone they don't know, and they're using that gift card to order stuff for themselves. So gifts that come out of nowhere. If the child is, for lack of a better term, twitchy about safety, looking over their shoulder, making sure that the windows are closed, all of a sudden having nightmares, things that are out of character. It could have just been a scary movie, but we need to have the conversation. Is something scaring you? No one's gonna hurt mom and me or dad or your brother. Like, you can tell me what's going on. If you've done something that you're not so proud of, it's okay, you can tell me. So any sort of sullen, withdrawn, isolating kind of behavior, doesn't want to leave the house, all of that kind of stuff. Also, more hours with the door shut in the bedroom because they may be being asked for nudes or pictures or more content. It's the same kind of signs you'd see in looking out for suicidality, right? So sullen behavior, depressive behavior, that kind of thing. But especially like not wanting to leave the house kind of stuff.
Do you think law enforcement is staying on top of this? Because it's becoming such an issue, do you see this being a priority?
I have always had, knock on wood, so far, really good outcomes with working with law enforcement. The problem with law enforcement is not the problem with law enforcement. I don't think we pay for what we need in this country, or probably any country, I don't know about other countries. I spoke to a deputy sheriff in a state that I won't mention, who's a great guy, and his job was to investigate sex crimes against kids. He was in charge of like 3 counties. by himself and had over 300 open cases. How is that going to happen?
Yeah.
And I've asked other ICAC means Internet Crimes Against Children. Those are task forces at prosecutor levels at every state. And I've asked ICAC staff, if we tripled your resources, your people, could you find everyone? No. If we multiplied it by a factor of 10, because it's almost like the barrel has no bottom. Mm-hmm. So they're doing what they can with the resources we give them. But we can't say we care about children and not fund those things.
Right.
Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah. So then what's the conversation we have with our own kids? And is there any point where it's too young that we need to, change what we're saying, with younger kids who might not even have had the sex ed classes yet? Do we have to use different language for them? And what do we say?
Well, and it's a good point. In my book, at the end of every chapter, there's conversation starters. Because you have to be really careful how you ask a kid a question to not give them the idea to do the thing you didn't want them to do. Right. Because if you say to your 10-year-old, all right, don't go in the bathroom and take a picture of your junk and send it to 85 of your friends, and it had not occurred to him, cheers. Yeah. Right? So you have to be really careful how you say stuff to not introduce a thought that wasn't even there. Right. So asking open-ended questions will tell you where that kid is. So, I was looking for a recipe for something. This is what you're telling your child. Oh, you know what, sweetie? I was looking for a recipe for something, and I put in the name of the recipe or the dish, and I hit images on Google, and oh my gosh, I saw some crazy stuff. Now, don't articulate what crazy means, because crazy to a really innocent child may be, some goofy thing with whatever. But for a kid who's, sort of deeper in the crazy, we'll say, oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. I saw da-da-da. Now, the key is to not react when the kid says, oh yeah, I see nudes all the time. You can't be like, you have to sort of keep it calm, or they're not gonna come back to you again. Yeah. So just pretend like you're watching animals in the zoo. Oh, really? That's interesting. The polar bear went to the left. Like, you just have to be very sort of removed emotionally from it so that they feel like they can tell you more. So the conversations are super important, and I forgot what the first part of your question was, because we went off.
Well, just what kind of, should I be?
Oh, the conversations with the younger ones.
Should we have conversations of, hey, if you're on a gaming site and somebody's telling you this, or if you have this boyfriend on Instagram that you've never met, that's a red flag. Like, what can we do to protect our kids and open their eyes to all of this?
Well, and so I'll go back to the thing I always say. If they don't have phones under 13, then you don't really have to have that conversation very much, right? Although the gaming is an issue. So Roblox is a known sort of home for predatory behavior. Discord is another app that's known. In fact, the Center for Sexual Exploitation awarded Discord either the #1 or #2 spot for the last couple of years for the Dirty Dozen list of the worst sites for child exploitation. So yes, I would have a conversation with those kids saying, nobody gets to hurt you, nobody gets to make you feel badly, no one gets to scare you. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a family member, I don't care if it's a friend, no one gets to make you feel afraid. And if that happens, I don't care what you did. Now, of course, as they're older, you can have a more candid conversation. And parents are squeamish, and I get it, about sexual conversations, but the more you do it, the more the sting comes out of it. Like my daughter tells me more than I want to know. But I'd rather be on that end of the spectrum than the other end. Yeah. Right? And so every time she and her friends, or when my son was still living with us, I would yell out the door, don't forget herpes is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, not everyone's going to give their child a herpes directive. Right. However, adapt that to a way that your kids, mom is so much crazier than I am, this is not going to freak her out. Yeah. And be willing to bring you stuff. But it's not a one-time conversation. This is something that has to happen over and over and over again. And use the news. Yeah. Right? Play a section of this of this interview for your kids. Look at what this crazy lady's talking about, some voice guy in the basement. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever been in a position where you were made to feel uncomfortable? And they'll probably very casually be like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah. And that, becomes the conversation. So one of the things, when I'm presenting to the students, I give them this little paper survey. And at the bottom, I ask them, what do you want me to tell parents? Because usually there's also a parent presentation involved. And it's anonymous, they can say whatever they want. Yeah. And one of their biggest pet peeves from 3rd grade on is when their parents post about them on mom's social media without the kid's permission.
Yeah,
okay?
which happens all the time.
Which happens, yeah, all the time. And so if we're telling children, you need to be a good steward of your own image, you need to be careful where your content goes, and then mom is just projectile vomiting information about the kid, this is a huge issue. First of all, because it's not cool to do to the kid, because they may be embarrassed by what you put up or whatever. And secondly, who's seeing what mom's putting up? Like, mom and dad could accidentally be making their kids targets.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking a picture or a video of your kid's choir, no one wants to see the choir video. Nobody wants to see that. Your kid isn't that important. Relax.
Yeah.
Have a seat. It's fine. But if you do that and you're saying, you know, we're at, you know, Acme Elementary School, you've now told the universe where your kid goes to school, what they look like, etc. So we're contributing to this data privacy issue that then gives these potential predators a leg up of, I know where to find that kid. I can tell that kid in a game, oh, I know where you go to school. Here's a video of you. I can hurt you. I know that your parents went on vacation to such and such last week or whatever. And so that all contributes to the, so what parents do is hugely important in terms of their social media usage. When children think that they have a friend or a love interest, I've heard this a lot. Well, and I'm having this conversation with the child in real life because they've come to me after a presentation. Okay, so I have this boyfriend or girlfriend, but now I'm getting suspicious based on what you said in the presentation. Okay, what's making you suspicious? Well, I've never actually seen their face. Oh, wait, you just said that you FaceTime like every day. Well, yeah, but he keeps his face hidden with his hair all in his face because he got a burn as a child and he's embarrassed because the guy's 40.
Yeah.
Right? So any of these things where you have the conversation with your kid, okay, who are you talking to? Oh, it's my friend, because they're all friends. It's my friend from Oklahoma or whatever, Minneapolis. Well, is that a guy or girl? Well, no, I can't really see. The room is dark. There's no identifiable anything. The person's never giving you a concrete piece of information. So that's something to say to kids. Like, if you haven't actually seen the person, and even then it's a problem, but I'm saying that's a red flag. Right. That this is a person that is your boyfriend, friend, whatever, and you've never seen even a clear shot of their face. But I've seen the hair in the face, hood, because I'm embarrassed by my face. I've seen that at least a couple dozen times. Oh my gosh. So that's another red flag for kids, Yeah.
Thank you again to Jessie Weinberger, and thanks to all of you for joining us here on Mom Squad. We'll see you right back here next time.